We did some very interesting secondary and study evaluations as well. And one of these was the time to next attack. So we figured, migraine is a self-limited event, but our drug lasts a long time. So after the migraine and the drug is still in position, does it have any ongoing effect on future migraine? And so one thing we did is we looked to the time to next migraine. And we compared that to placebo. And here again, what we found is that for eptinezumab, the time to next migraine was 10 days versus 5 days for placebo. And we think that in people that are having very frequent attacks, this prevention to the next migraine, if you will, is going to be a very useful feature if a person is having an acute event at the time of their infusion. So that was, I think, one of the most important things. But then we also did something that was extremely unique. We looked at what is called the mTOQ, or Migraine Treatment Optimization Questionnaire. And this is a questionnaire that was created by Richard Lipton, and it looks for how well a person's acute treatment is actually working for them. And so once again, based on this idea that even after a migraine goes away, an infusion of eptinezumab is still there for a long time. And so we wanted to see if there was any future effects to that. And what we found with this is that the overall scores were statistically in favor of eptinezumab. But when we looked at the items specifically, we saw that return to function and 2-hour pain freedom were both significant for attacks that happened after the one that we treated in the study, so through the first month. The other items in that, the other questions, were also in favor numerically of eptinezumab, but didn't reach statistical significance. But this idea that people had greater 2-hour pain freedom and improve of function was quite important. And in a third poster, we looked at the resolution of these events, of the associated symptoms over time. And as I said, in the primary endpoints, you had resolution of headache that occurred quite rapidly, statistically separating within 1 hour. And the MBS was also separation within 1 hour. But we went beyond this and said, okay, let's not just take the one that was most bothersome. Let's look at all the symptoms that are used in the MBS. So let's look at photophobia, phonophobia, and nausea and see how they all fared. And the truth is that these symptoms all resolved very rapidly. Nausea within 30 minutes, the other two statistically significant difference within 1 hour. And they resolved faster when they did. The resolution was faster with eptinezumab, but it outpaced relief or resolution of the headache. So very often people think, if the migraine goes away, everything else goes away, if the headache goes away. But this really suggests that there is an independent effect of eptinezumab on these associated symptoms. And I think that's very interesting. And it's particularly interesting because this drug does not get into the brain. It works in the periphery. And even though we think of symptoms like photophobia and phonophobia, nausea as being sort of brain symptoms, here we have a drug working peripherally that is obviously affecting them very quickly and very profoundly. So that, I think, is something that certainly we need to explore in greater detail going forward. But I think it does have a lot of implications for patients if, in fact, they're having that type of symptomatology.